Hey you guys, and welcome back to Rooted Homeschool. If you're new here, I'm Christina and I'm a homeschooling mom of 5 kids, ages 18 months, 2.5, 6, 10, and 13. Today's video is all about homeschooling in New York. Homeschooling regulations, things that you have to do, how you get started, what you have to look ahead to, and anything else in regard to homeschooling in New York. I'm also going to share with you some resources about how you can learn about homeschooling in your state, even if you are not from New York. So whether you're from New York or from another state, I will show you how to make sure that you're on the right track and you know everything that you need to know in order to get started or continuing homeschooling your kids while complying with the regulations. What's really exciting about this video today, though, is it is part of a collab that I am co-hosting with my sweet friend Kristen over at My Cathedral Garden. Now, if you don't know Kristen, she is wonderful. If you've been around for any length of time, you know that I absolutely adore her. And what's really exciting about it is she is from Texas. If you live in Texas or a low regulation state, you definitely want to go check out Kristen's video today. If you are not from Texas or a low regulation state, I am sure there is still helpful information in her video and plenty of other videos on her channel that you're going to want to check out. If you have no idea what I'm talking about in terms of what a low regulation state is, then you are in the right place because we're going to talk about all of that in today's video. I am co-hosting this with Kristen, but it is a collab with a whole bunch of other homeschooling mamas from all over the country who live in different states, as well as a couple of mamas that are in different countries. So definitely be sure to check out the playlist below and see what information you can grab from all these different mamas in different states, different countries, different levels of regulation in regard to homeschooling. So let's take a deep breath, grab a cup of coffee, a glass of water, some tea, whatever it is you need to just relax and put your mind at ease in terms of what all these regulations are in regard to homeschooling. That is our goal today for this collab, is to help other moms realize that it really isn't all that scary and it really isn't all that complicated. And if you are already homeschooling, to just sort of link arms with you and maybe remind you of something that you may have forgotten or something that you didn't realize, and just kind of share how we're making it work in our particular state or country that we're homeschooling in. So, as I mentioned, I am in New York State. And New York State is one of the handful of states in our country that's considered highly regulated. If you are in Pennsylvania, Vermont, Massachusetts, or Rhode Island, welcome to our little section of the Northeast of the United States where we are highly regulated as homeschoolers. Let's talk a little bit about what that means. Now, highly regulated means we have the most amount of steps to take in terms of paperwork. We also have the most strict mandates in terms of school days, school hours, assessment, qualifications, mandated subjects, and all of those things. I can tell you though, it's not as bad as it sounds. So I am not here to scare you and say, oh my gosh, you live in a highly regulated state. What I do want to share with you are there are some more steps that we have to take, but I also want to share with you that I have had 0 issues. Now I know this is not the case with every homeschooling family. I'm just going to share my experience. And I also want to share that your experience is not going to be the same as everyone in your state. Because what I have noticed is it also varies by district. And what I mean by that is the district cannot make up their own set of rules or regulations for you. However, they may be a little bit more lax or easygoing in terms of just being cool with what you submit, or they may be a little bit more strict or even more involved than they're actually allowed to be. So not everyone's situation is going to be the same just because their state regulations are the same. It also depends on the home district or the district that you are reporting to and what their superintendent of instruction decides to accept or question. Before we go any further, I want to share with you the #1 website that you want to use as a homeschooling mom, no matter what state that you are homeschooling in. And that is The HSLDA website. HSLDA.org just stands for Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and you'll notice that it gives you step-by-step instructions. The first being what you're doing now, right, which is connecting with other homeschoolers. Step 2 is to check the regulations in your state. So you see, if you click here, you'll actually have a map that pops up and you'll be able to click on your specific state. And as you can see, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Rhode Island are all dark purple, meaning those are the highly regulated states. Then you have your light purple states. Those are the moderately regulated states. And then all of your light blue states, those are your low regulation states. So what's nice about this little map is it's clickable. So if you click on your state, like I just clicked on New York, it'll give you your state at a glance and kind of gives you an overview of all of the different regulations and requirements like notification, qualifications, subjects, all of those things. If you click on the complete detailed overview, you'll see that there's even a video that you can watch. I recommend watching that about homeschool law, and then it walks you through it step by step. So your first thing that you have to do is to submit a notice of intent. Sounds super official. It is a 1-paragraph piece of paper where you are alerting the district that you intend, your letter of intent, you intend to homeschool your child. You'll give their name, their date of birth, what grade they will be entering for that particular school year, and you can find even more information about that as well as examples of what that looks like on the HSLDA website. There are also tons of Facebook groups out there that share sample documents for you to download and edit and make your own. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't done it already, looking for Facebook groups for homeschoolers in your particular state or country and see what is there to help you. So the letter of intent, you need to just submit within 14 days of deciding to homeschool your child. So what does that mean? If you are in September through June of any given school year, you could the very next day decide, I am not sending my child back to school for whatever reason you decide, I am going to homeschool them. Within 14 days of them no longer attending school, you need to submit a letter of intent. Pretty simple, not a big deal. You're supposed to submit annually if you're continuing to homeschool by July 1st. But again, you have the freedom to submit it after that as well. Makes the most sense to comply with that so they don't give you a hard time, but again, they can't force you to send your child to public school as long as you are in compliance with that 2 weeks. So you should get a receipt of your letter of intent from your school district after submitting your letter of intent. Within 4 weeks of that receipt of your letter of intent, you will then submit an IHIP within those 4 weeks, or by August 15th of the upcoming school year, or whichever one is later. So if you submit it by July 1st and they don't submit, they don't give you receipt of that till August 15th, you have 30 days or 4 weeks from that date. I would have mine ready to go and send it because why push it? But if something comes up and you are unable to get it in by August 15th, as long as it is within 4 weeks of when you received their receipt of your letter of intent, then you were in compliance with the homeschool laws in New York State. The IHIP simply stands for the Individualized Home Instruction Plan. You are just telling them how you intend to teach your child. This will include their name, their age, their grade level, and a list of the curriculum or resources and materials, textbooks, websites, and all the things that you plan to use to educate your child for the upcoming school year. You will give them the dates that you are choosing for the submittal of your 4 quarterly reports. So I would look at your school year, not necessarily the school's academic year. It's whatever your academic year is going to be. Figure out where you would like to make those 4 quarterly reports, and you will let them know in your IHIP when you will be submitting those. So you get to decide that, which is kind of nice. If you want to follow the school district's 4 quarters, go for it, but you don't have to. You'll also provide the name of whoever is giving the instruction. If it is you, then that is simply your name that you'll include there. So then you will submit the IHIP. Now, I know it sounds like a lot when you're like curriculum, syllabi, plan of instruction. You are not submitting lesson plans. My IHIPs are 1 page. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit. I use a chart. I include the subject and then the curriculum that I plan to use for that subject, and then any other possible things that I might use. And I always write at the bottom with a little asterisk, subject to change, because again, we have that freedom. So show them that you have a plan, but then also exercise your right to change things up as you go. So for example, for math, this year for my 5th grader, I plan to use Simply Good and Beautiful Math Level 5. That is what I will put in the box for math, and that is it. You may choose to take a look at the scope and sequence and include what major topics will be covered throughout the course of that year. You will need to keep attendance, so roughly keep your hours. After a year of homeschooling, I have not been asked for those, I will tell you that. To protect yourself, I would keep them. Remember though, that for homeschooling, at least I can say for myself, I don't only count hours when my kids are sitting down doing a lesson or a curriculum. If they are doing something that would fall under some type of learning, I include those hours. You have to decide what is best for you integrity-wise. I feel strongly that the hours that I include reflect genuine learning, and therefore I include those hours. So for New York State, this equates to 900 hours of school per year for grades 1 through 6. For kindergarten, you are not required to report. You may choose to. I can tell you I did not report for my kindergartner this past year. And it is 990 hours for grades 7 through 12. So this does offer us still in highly regulated states a ton of freedom in how we educate our children. And so I want to stress that as a mom in a highly regulated state, this offers us an amazing amount of freedom. So while I'm talking about these strict regulations, I want to make sure that I stress that at the very same time. None of this, even for a second, makes me question if it's worth it or makes me shy away from it, and I don't want it to do that for you either. That is why I'm here today, not only to give you the details, but also to tell you I want to be here as a mom that you can go to and say, hey, I'm really confused about this one thing. Can you help me? I don't pretend to have all the answers. I am not a homeschool veteran by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a mom that wants to support other moms on their journey, not only in homeschooling, but in motherhood in general. So if you have a question and I can help you figure it out, or I can talk you through it, or I can just encourage you to be like, you got this, or point you to the person that I think might best help you, I am happy to do that. So let's talk really quickly about quarterly reports. This is the 3rd thing you'll be submitting to the school district after your letter of intent and your IHIP. I can tell you that my quarterly reports look very similar to my IHIP. I copy and paste the entire page. I change what I need to change to reflect which quarterly report it is. I put in the hours of instruction. What I do is I just divide up the amount of hours that they need annually, and then I put 225 plus hours for that quarter. Because realistically, we are learning way more than that anyway as homeschooling families. And I know this varies dependent on your lifestyle, but we live a lifestyle of learning, and there is a lot of learning that takes place taking care of a family and all of those things. So any changes that are made within that quarter, I will edit that. For the quarterly report, if there were things we didn't get to, I will take those out. And the evaluation per quarter is 1 line for me. It says evaluation, student mastered at least 80% of all topics covered. That is how simple that is. Let's talk really quickly about annual assessments. For grades 1 through 3, you can choose to have your child take a standardized test for their annual assessment. Or you can choose to complete a written narrative that explains and reflects what your child has learned that year, what they have mastered, maybe what they're still working on, and things like that. In grades 4 through 8, standardized testing is required every other year, and you can choose the option of the written narrative on the opposite years that you don't have to standardize tests. Or if you prefer to just do the standardized testing each of the years, that's fine. So for example, my 4th grader last year was in that first range of having to be assessed by standardized tests every other year, and I chose it as a written narrative year. So in 5th grade, he will need to do a standardized test. Standardized testing is required every year in high school. So for my upcoming 9th grader, he will be required to take a standardized test each year. Now, there is a list of standardized tests that you can choose from, and I have not decided yet which test I will choose. I will do my research and then decide which one I think is best for my child. So hopefully this gives you kind of an overview to understand the things that are required in New York State for homeschooling in terms of regulations, mandates, and all of those things. Now, I could not give you every detail on all of these things without making this a super long video. So I just want to refer you back again to the HSLDA website so that you can find all of the details on their website, as well as samples of what some of this paperwork looks like and all of those things. So over on Instagram and stories, I asked if you guys had questions that you wanted to see answered in this video in regard to homeschooling in your particular state. I got so many good questions that I decided I'm going to do a separate video addressing all of those questions. A couple of them did in fact fit in with this homeschooling per state theme that we have going on in this collab today, and then some of them were just about homeschooling in general. So tomorrow I will have up a Q&A video for you guys answering all those questions that you asked over on Instagram. And there were some really great ones. I will tell you a couple of them, specifically the ones that relate to this particular topic of homeschooling. One of them was, how do you know if you're doing enough? Our state has no regulations. So I would strongly recommend, again, heading over to Kristen's video. She lives in a low regulation state in Texas. But then I will also talk about that a bit in my video tomorrow in regard to the whole idea of if we're doing enough. How do we know if we're doing enough? So I will share a little bit more about that tomorrow. In the meantime, definitely check out the other mamas videos below to see how they address issues like that. Another one that I want to mention is that I had a mama who said, I'm looking forward to follow other moms who homeschool in Florida if you know any. So 2 things that I want to do for this is, if you would like to share down below the state that you homeschool in so that you can connect with other moms, I would love if you want to do that. If you don't feel comfortable, obviously that's totally okay. But at the same time that this video is going live, I also have a post going up over on Instagram for you guys to connect with other moms, as well as the moms that are in this collab from different states. So go over to my Instagram. If you are not already following me, you can follow me there at rooted_homeschool. And my most recent post will be for you guys to connect with one another in the comments to share what state you are homeschooling in so that you can follow one another and have support and connections and community, because that is really my goal with this channel and with my page over on Instagram, is really just to build community and support with other homeschooling moms and moms in general. So definitely comment down below if you guys want to chat down below. If you have any questions about anything that I mentioned in this video or anything that you were hoping to hear about that I didn't mention. If you homeschool in New York or another highly regulated state and you have any helpful advice, definitely add that below as well. Again, make sure you check out Kristen's video for homeschooling in Texas and check out her channel for all the other amazing content that she has over there. Check out the playlist for all the other moms in this collab. I am going to watch all of them, even though they're homeschooling in different states and countries. I know that there is always something that I can learn from other moms, and that's what I love about this community here on YouTube and over on Instagram. If you're here from one of the other moms channels in this collab, welcome. I am so glad you're here. I would love if you would stick around. If you are not subscribed, click that red subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so that you know when I have a new video coming up. I hope to see you again soon in one of my next ones, and until next time, stay rooted.